All right. Well, hey there. It's so good to have you on this Wednesday. Welcome to Tab Midweek. I hope everybody is doing well. If you're tuning in from Norfolk, then you know it's been kind of a nasty day. We've been kind of talking about that. So, Joanne, thank you for taking some time to be with us on a, not super convenient day. So
Absolutely,
thank you.
my pleasure.
And excited to get to know you a little bit and learn a little bit more about the Planning Council. So why don't we just jump right in there? Give us kind of a high-level introduction of yourself. I understand this to be still kind of a fresh, new role, but just give us kind of a high-level who is Joanne Short?
All right. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here. My name is Joanne Short, and I am the new CEO at the Planning Council in Norfolk, and I started the end of March. So I've been here 10 months, literally today, the 28th. And
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. So I am still learning about this area, about my job, but I can tell you about me. That part I know. So my husband and I moved here from northern New Jersey, and I had about 4 years in a consulting position helping nonprofits get themselves strong and put infrastructure together to their organization in many different ways. 2 of those 4 years, it was directly working with the Girl Scout Council, so working for GSUSA in Manhattan. I just loved all the formality of the toolbox that they taught me to take it into other clients then later and now at the Planning Council.
Did they give you any cookie recipes?
Oh, I was very disappointed to learn that at GSUSA there were no cookies because it's the girls program.
Oh.
Yeah, so I had to do all of my neighborhood shopping like you would do, yeah. But anyway, prior to that, I spent 31 years in the YMCA, working, in a Y career in Pennsylvania, in Maine, in Connecticut, all over in the Northeast, and thoroughly enjoyed that in terms of serving the community in whatever way the community had need. And so when I found the opening at the Planning Council, it seemed very similar to that drive that I have personally in terms of making a community stronger and doing anything within my power to do that.
Now, can I, I'm just intrigued. I think people have passion, right? Obviously, you're a person of passion. You wouldn't be at the level that you are at if you didn't have that passion and that drive. As I've done some, just a little research on you and just the positions that you've been in, this seems to be like a common theme. You're not for profit kind of organizations that really are passionate about investing in the community around them. Did you always have that? Did you stumble into that? Give us a little bit of the history there of how that trajectory happened in your life.
Yeah, I wish I had a great answer for you. There was this moment when I was 12. Not really. My parents both had that kind of career in their lives. My mom ran churches. She was the church administrator, and as you know,
wow,
they run the church.
Amen to that. Sarah Hall, you're probably tuned in tonight. Amen.
And my dad had a YMCA career. So that's just what I knew. And what's interesting is I swore that I wouldn't do anything like that because I was at that age where, what do your parents know? That's silly. I'm gonna make my own path. And then I go to college and I take some classes that are similar to what would be a YMCA career, and learning about community and learning about demographics and people's needs and sociology and psychology and all of those kinds of courses that I was so fascinated in, and the study of people and what makes them do what they do and why they do it, and impact. And what I was familiar with as a little kid growing up as a Y brat, I was familiar with serving people through that kind of venue. And my first job out of school was working at a Y. So it just grew kind of accidentally. I didn't mean to do it, but I loved it just the same. And the more you do it, it's almost like, I don't know, it's just a ride you can't get off. It's so rewarding. And you meet so many people in the community because there's other people that are passionate about that along with you. And you're like, well, isn't this cool?
It is, my dad's a pastor, so here I am.
There you go.
And I
So you get it.
Like you, up until my mid-20s, I was like, I'll do anything, Lord, but I won't be a pastor. And here I am. God definitely has a sense of humor
That's
on
great.
that. Kind of flipping over to the planning council, and it is. I don't know a lot about the Planning Council, but just as I've looked at it, I'm like, man, my goodness, this is a happening organization. Just the scope of all the different opportunities and things that you guys are involved in is incredible. Can you give us kind of a high-level 50,000-foot view, kind of, all right, here's the Planning Council, here's what we're all about?
Yeah, sure. That was my question when I was asked to apply to the job. I'm like, wait a minute, what is it? I can't really put my head around it. And I think the easiest way to describe it to somebody is in terms of our streams of revenue. It'll speak to what we do, what we get paid to do. We do absolutely no frontline or direct line service. We deal with people experiencing homelessness, but we don't deal with any people. We deal with agencies. We deal with children getting nutritious food, but we don't deal with one child, not one. And we deal with all the daycare centers or the in-home, at-home daycares to make sure that they're putting nutritious food in front of the kids that are in their care. We deal with kids with special needs, but we do it through the provider that's offering care to the family. So it's a military, a Navy family that has a child with special needs, and it's a respite program. So we find a provider who has the skill set to serve their child, whatever their child's needs may be. And so, again, we don't deal with kids with special needs, but we're serving that community. And so all three of those are silos of our revenue streams. And then the fourth one is kind of like all other. And that can actually be cumbersome at times. But those three, homelessness, healthy food for kids in daycare, and special needs, Navy families with a child with special needs. So $15 million operation, so it's no small chump change. It's a good size nonprofit.
And kind of give us a scope of the region that you guys are over.
So the Navy families, it's this area right here, this footprint. With the Child and Adult Care Food Program, it's a USDA program for the daycares to be reimbursed for the food that they give the kids in their care. That is Maryland, D.C., and Eastern Virginia. So that is a huge footprint, and all of our staff that do that, it's about 14 of them, they all work from home. They don't come into a main office. And so that has its own nuances, challenges, sure. And then everything with regard to the work with homeless is the Greater Hampton Roads area.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fascinating. And so that's a lot of different, there's a common thread of helping people, but that's a lot of different
They're unrelated.
things.
They don't intersect at any point.
Wow.
It's really fascinating. And that's why it's hard to get your head around, because one of the interview questions they gave me is, how will you bring this team of employees together as one? And so pulling, tricks out of my hat, I was like, oh, we could do this, we could do that. And now that I'm here, plus 10 months, I'm like, they don't work together. They work next to each other. So it's really a fascinating collection. We've been doing this for 81 years. This is our 82nd year. And the history is that it just keeps evolving. And because the goal is to meet the community need. And of course, that keeps evolving. So when you start in the 40s, you're dealing with World War II. Right? And on and on and on. So every decade, there's this new phenomenon that the Planning Council stepped up and said, we'll take that on, or let's apply to that RFP to see if we can help. So it's a fascinating history that I'm still learning.
Yeah, it is. And I imagine, again, just your role as overseeing all of that at such a high level is a lot to get your arms around. Kind of going off script a little bit, just because I think this would be an interesting, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But I've heard that in our, in 2023, we're inundated by content, right? Just there's this obsession of like wanting to be the creator of new content kind of thing. And I heard a guy recently that said, you know, there's a niche right now that many people are negating, or they're just kind of oblivious to, that so many people want to create content, but it's actually people who have a gift for curating content that are can really make a tremendous impact in the, you know, this cultural moment that we find ourselves in. Can you talk a little? Do you just have any thoughts on that, or just any kind of perspective? Because when I think about what you guys do at the Planning Council, a lot of what you're doing, you're not reinventing the wheel per se, not, you know, right there on the front lines per se, but really curating resources and funds in a way that you actually can, you know, impact our greater community. I don't know, just, yeah. I don't know if there's even a question there, but just, does that trigger any thoughts for you, Joanne? And I'll stop rambling on.
Yeah, so the Child and Adult Care Food Program is the largest, from a revenue perspective, the largest work that we do. And it is fairly straightforward in terms of compliance, making sure that the daycare provider is doing those things that USDA has mandated, you know, X amount of ounces of dairy and grain and, you know, all those things in their menu. So they want to see a menu, they want to see a grocery list, they want to compare it to the attendance roster. And so that's what that team does. And on the side, trying to rally new daycare providers to the program. Say, hey, you can get your meals reimbursed if you do A, B, and C. It's fairly easy, and we'll help you through it. And so a little bit of sales on the side. And we are, we get paid to do the administrative work of that. That's our share of it. And with respite, it's whatever family, Navy family signs up is the family that we serve. So we interview them, find out what the needs are, go vet provider that can meet their needs, both the needs that their child has, but the needs of the day, the time of the day, of the week, and that sort of thing, for the actual family to get the respite. And again, a little bit more of sales, like, hey, tell your other friends, you know, kind of thing, because they all, you know, they all have, you know,
community there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, the other side of the house is what we call the planning side. So that's dealing with the different agencies that are helping with preventing homelessness. That is a little more freewheeling, if you will. There's definitely some mandates that are, you know, we get HUD money for that, so it's, you know, you have to ask permission to breathe on Wednesday and hiccup on Thursday and that sort of thing, and you can't stray left or right.
Have to have a lot of patience, I guess.
Yes, yeah. And so we're always trying to find ways that we can continue to serve, but with unrestricted dollars. So we want to offer this to you, but don't tell us how to do it. You know, like we have a creative team. We have data geeks that are behind the scenes doing research and programming and putting out reports that are just fascinating. And all the different municipalities that we partner with use that data for whatever their needs are. And sometimes they'll even call us and say, can you put this kind of report together? And we say, yes, we'll do a needs assessment, we'll do a strategic plan, that sort of thing. So we get that money for doing that kind of work. And we find it fascinating to, especially doing a comparison, Chesapeake compared to Norfolk or compared to Virginia Beach and that sort of thing. And it also allows my team to better understand all of these communities and what makes them tick and why one community is always in this category, whatever that category might be. Yep, that makes sense, you know, and they just have a really strong understanding of this region. I would say one of my early observations and biggest frustrations of this area is the lack of regional collaborative work. And it has to do with, if we're talking about Norfolk, they have their own budget and they have to mind that. Virginia Beach has their budget and they have to mind that. Chesapeake, Suffolk, Portsmouth, etc. So if Norfolk does some part of the homeless prevention work really, really well, and that particular piece is not done real well in one of the neighboring contiguous municipalities, nothing you can do about it, because Norfolk is not going to do that service for Virginia Beach and vice versa. Not because it's Virginia Beach, but because their budget is tight and it's restricted to this area, this footprint. And so in an area that doesn't have county politics, there's no county money. County money would force the groups to act in a regional, collaborative, link arms, move forward together. You have strength in that, you have strength in that, you'll be the lead. I'm gonna call you for this, you call me for that. And, if you're dealing with people who are experiencing homelessness, they don't care that they just crossed into Chesapeake, and so, but once they do, Norfolk washes their hands of them because now it's Chesapeake's person, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way,
absolutely.
simply a matter of how they're conducting business. I haven't yet figured out how to get beyond that, but
we're counting on you, Joanne. All right.
I've got a brain trust of people that I've met just in the past 10 months that say, yes, I want to be at that table. I want to solve this with you.
Yeah.
And we've bantered some really exciting ideas. And so I'm hopeful.
No, that's so encouraging. I've been here 3 years, not too much longer than you have, and you hear that of just it's difficult, and I know every city has their different reasons, but there is power when we can link arms and come together. So we'll be praying for you and your team on that, and just you guys have a unique seat at the table because you cover such a wide region. So that's really encouraging. Can you talk to us a little bit just about, because you have to partner, really you guys are contingent on your partners, the health of some of these partnerships. Can you just talk about, in your experience, and it can be with the Planning Council, it can be back with the YMCA or other experiences that you've had, but when you really think about a good, healthy partnership, I think that's a word that we throw around a lot today, right? We throw around like, we want to partner well with this or that. And at our church here, we've worked really hard to just partner with other churches. And hey, we're much better if we, like you said, don't link arms. But can you talk a little bit about what do you think of when you think of a healthy partnership? Like, man, this would be hitting on all cylinders.
I had an experience when I was with the YMCA where we were fortunate to have thousands of kids in our daycare. And in June, when school lets out, that's a lot of kids. When school let out, the kids that were on the school lunch program weren't getting fed in the middle of the day. They weren't getting a hot meal during the week. And their family couldn't afford summer camp. And so, and then the summer slide with their education, they weren't doing educational vacations, they weren't reading, nobody was asking them to sit and do some work of any sorts. They start school again in September. You know that story. So we wanted to address that, the achievement gap. And so we wanted to have a camp that would be heavily scholarshiped. We wanted them to pay something. We wanted them to have skin in the game, but we didn't want it to be a burden. So we found donors who believed in the work. We found a bus company that believed in the work and went around to 3 different sites. It wasn't like neighborhood pickup, but 3 major sites to pick the kids up, to bring them to the camp. And we found, I won't call it a food bank, but a local church that had a very strong food program, provide backpacks of food for each of the kids. Every Friday, they went home with a backpack of food for their family for the weekend. The deal was they brought it back empty on Monday. And we found teachers that are off in the summertime wanted to be counselors. So it was a truly educational program that was just a lot of fun. The curriculum was just targeted for that type of child. We could not have done it alone. The rent was reduced because the church that we rented to hold it believed in the work. They needed their direct costs to be covered, and that was it. So it was a true partnership all around. Everybody had their hand in, and it was hugely successful.
I love that. Is there a way that you are maybe seeing right now with the Planning Council that there is a potential for nonprofit, particularly those in the religious realm like we are in church world? Is there a way for faith-based organizations to partner with you guys and what you're doing, or have y'all started to talk about that at all? Like,
yeah,
how could faith-based partnerships increase?
So we don't do frontline work. We're not, we don't, you know, if I had a group of 50 people, I don't know what I'd have them do. Because we deal with the organizations and agencies that do all of that. So perhaps it's simply we become the resource to those agencies that do need the volunteers. Maybe they need to collect warm socks for the shelters. Maybe we need people to, like, for instance, tonight, tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. is the point in time count across the country. HUD requires all the municipalities to figure out how many people, sheltered, unsheltered, are homeless. In this moment in time, give me a count.
And that happens tomorrow at 4 a.m.?
Yep.
Wow, across
now,
our country.
Across the country. Theoretically, the idea is that everybody does it the same night, but essentially it's the last week of January. They'd like it to be the same night so that you're not doing duplicate counts. So if Norfolk does it tonight and Chesapeake does it tomorrow night, you might get the same person in the Chesapeake after you counted them already in Norfolk. So, you know, this footprint is doing it at 4 a.m. Maybe, I think Portsmouth might be doing it at 6 or something, like different times, but certainly the same 24-hour period. And then all that data is collected and sent to HUD, and based on the numbers in our footprint, we'll determine how much money we get the following year to serve that many people. So if your numbers go down, it's good news and it's bad news. If your numbers go down, that's really good news. If your numbers go down, you have less money to work with the following year, and that's not good news. So it's like you don't really know what to hope for. You want the numbers to go down because that means that your work is working.
Yeah, people are off the streets, yeah.
So, but anyway, our team runs the HMIS system for this whole region, the homeless management information system, and it's the data that gets collected, and in particular for the point in time count, but throughout the whole year. So it happens live. There is an app that all of our volunteers use. There's about 75 people that will be going out in the morning to count all of the sheltered and unsheltered people. And so if you're somebody that I'm counting and I interview you and I ask you your name and a little bit about you, and I say thank you and I give you a protein bar, a granola bar, maybe some warm socks or some safety kit that we put together that's got toothbrush, toothpaste, whatever, something like that, thanking you for your time in talking to me. I walk away, and in my headset, I have somebody at HQ, which is our office in Norfolk, saying to the volunteer, "You didn't let me know what their gender is. So before you walk away, go back and ask them, or their date of birth, or whatever question they may have forgotten to ask." And even if you think you know, we need to ask. Even if you think you know what their race is, we need to ask. Because we don't know. We can't judge the book by the cover kind of concept. And so anyway, the person who's literally sitting in our office, it has sites all in Greater Hampton Roads in this crunch time until about noon. Because I asked, why does it end at noon? Why isn't it a full 24-hour sweep? And they said, because a lot of the places, the shelters especially, you got to get out by 7:30. Go find whatever it is you're doing. You can't hang out here. We'll give you a warm place to sleep, and that's what the service is. And I don't mean it in a cold-hearted way. It's just that's how they have to manage things. They have to clean between and all of that. So by noon, all of the volunteers have come in, they've submitted all of their reports, and then my team goes to work. It takes about 3 months to manipulate that data in a way that HUD wants to see it. So they meet the deadline, submit everything, and then HUD will turn that around and turn it into dollars for us.
I think
it's a big deal.
Yeah, I know. I just can't imagine the work that goes into that. I actually somehow went down a really deep rabbit trail on y'all's website, and I pulled up the report. I guess it was from maybe last year of homelessness, the data that is in our area. It really is a tremendous resource to look at. I mean, it's staggering just to look at the numbers, but also to just there's common themes that you can see in there with certain demographics and things like that. And it just, man, it really is heartbreaking because every one of those numbers represents a person's life. And so thank you for helping to pull those resources together. And we appreciate you doing that for sure. You made a comment earlier that I'd love to just kind of dig into a little bit, but you said the Planning Council has been around since before World War II, so 80 years old, I believe you said. Kind of consistently in this reinventing itself kind of a stage. Can you just talk about maybe, again, I know you're new in this role, but the process of leading that, reinventing anything is difficult because as human beings, we're kind of all change averse on some level. Can you talk about leading innovation like that, and some of your experiences with that, maybe some best practices that you've seen over the years, and how do you stay true to an organization and the history of an organization while also being relevant to the context that you're currently in?
Yeah, that's a big question.
I need some help, Joanne. Come on.
So our backgrounds are quite similar in terms of the work that the church does in launching something, having the roots here, and then being strong enough to then say, go ahead and fly. You're good now. You're on your own. And really, the Planning Council is known for that kind of work. And because I'm new, I did write some stuff down so that I can reference, so that I don't start making stuff up. But in the 40s, things were really changing here regularly. Think about Norfolk, the Navy base here, right? So this was a humming place. Detention treatment, hospital for women. They had a jail. This kills me. The influx of prostitutes that were seeking the sailors.
Well, kind of, unfortunately.
Yeah, so they needed to create something to handle that because it became a problem. We stepped up and we handled that. The Civilian Defense Volunteer Office was set up for the World War II efforts. The Norfolk Mental Hygiene Center is the forerunner of the Norfolk Community Services Board. Nationally, they focus on serving intellectually disabled, substance abuse, mental health, and some homelessness. And so, some of this stuff is really, really cool. The Legal Reference Bureau is the forerunner of legal aid agencies that are all over for indigent people. And then into the 50s, we partnered with the Junior League for Volunteer Bureau, and that later became Volunteer Hampton Roads that everybody seems to know about. If you're looking for a corps of volunteers to help with a project, you call them, they pair it up. If you're looking for board members, you call them, they pair you up. It's really a cool agency in town. And essentially, providing the Planning Council would provide volunteers for different agencies and agencies for volunteers. So when you ask, like, what could this church do, we could place you, with something that would feel good and be rewarding. Writing grants and offering trainings for other nonprofits, among other things. In the 60s, I thought this one was really fascinating, and I don't know enough detail about it to speak other than one statement, but it's really big. We facilitated the needs assessment that established the Eastern Virginia Medical Authority that became Eastern Virginia Medical School.
That's amazing. What cool? A cool legacy. Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So just determining that there was a need for this, okay, let's put this authority together, and then the authority became the school.
Wow.
Yeah.
That?
Yeah. So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're familiar with STOP. I believe it stands for Southeastern Tidewater Opportunity Project, dealing with any services to do with serving people experiencing homelessness. It's a community action agency, basically. They get special funding from the state for programs that are like Head Start and weatherization programs for low-income homes. So we incubated the STOP organization, who now runs it on their own as STOP Inc. And Senior Services of Southeastern Virginia. We did a needs assessment, we wrote the grant, and we brought it here. and then launched it on its own. So, you know, it's kind of like your baby. You build it, and then it's like, okay, go ahead, you know. And what's so coincidental is we are in the industrial park off of Robin Hood, and they're like four buildings down, not buildings, we're in the same building, but 4 doors down from us. So it's nice to have a neighbor that was once one of us.
Yeah, part of you.
Yeah. And we partnered with the U.S. Navy, developed the Fleet and Family Services Center, basically taking care of the low-income military families for literacy, for food. I mean, some of those families aren't doing well, and it's, I feel, our job to make sure that they can live in a thriving environment. And this is showing my age, but when I read that we launched the 911 emergency number to our area, I was like, what?
Wow,
that
that's
was
amazing.
in the 70s, and I don't really remember life without 911, but I guess it had to start at some point. But anyway, we wrote the grants to fund that initiative, to bring it to this area. Not everybody could afford to have it, and so we wrote grants and we got it. So now we all think of 911, and you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. That's kind of a big deal.
It is. A lot of these really are. We helped to establish the Food Bank of Southeastern Virginia and Eastern Shore. And again, a lot of this is just looking out at an RFP that's available, write the grant, do a needs assessment to prove it's necessary. We hosted a regional information and referral system, which became the 211 call center. And so that stayed intact until about July. So that was in the 80s. That stayed intact until about July of 2014. And then we maintained the outreach person. So when you called 211 and you need help, our outreach person would be the one that you'd be talking to. And we did that through March of this past year, March a year ago. And so now it's subbed through the Council of Community Services in Roanoke. It's a program that the Virginia Department of Social Services runs through different organizations like the one in Roanoke now. And our then Director of Children's Services back in the 80s began the Child and Adult Care Food Program in this area with the daycare centers and putting nutritious food in front of the kids that they serve, and then grew it into the Maryland and DC area. So we are the only sponsor to have a tri-state food program.
That's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool program. Then our continuum of care, that's a term for a group of agencies putting their heads and services together to help whatever an issue might be, typically homelessness. So there's like a homelessness consortium, or they all have kind of similar but different names for them. It was in the 90s that the COC, the Continuum of Care. Everything's an acronym, by the way. I needed a decoder ring when I started.
I mean, you're spitting them out, and it's like, man, all right, that sounds good.
Man. But the COC, we became the lead agency for Norfolk and the HMIS, the database. We became the lead agency for Norfolk's homeless consortium. So we either volunteered to be that, or we were voted in by the COC to do that. And then the point in time count, I just shared with you what that is. And then in the early 2000s, I love this program. 2004, Centera Healthcare reached out and asked us to run or manage their Hope Fund. And their Hope Fund is essentially an emergency assistance program for their employees. So Centera put money into a fund, and when their employees are going through a hard time, some sort of crisis, they would apply to get funding. And so there was a cap per person per year and that sort of thing. So there's a handful of rules, and our people would receive the calls, basically case management, receive the calls and deem it eligible or declined. Those that are eligible, they would then manage so that it didn't overextend the limit per person. And then a lot of other COCs came into play, serving Western Tidewater, Greater Virginia Peninsula, Lynchburg, and the Chesapeake Community Health Clinic, again in the early 2000s, a federally qualified community health center, so it's FQCHC, is similar to a Park Place grant that we did in South Norfolk neighborhood. It was a huge project, essentially getting a health clinic in place because it was needed. And we partnered with Virginia Supportive Housing to develop regional permanent supportive housing for homeless adults. So now there's about 350 units in 6 different properties. So each of the properties has anywhere from 60 to 80 SROs, the single room occupancy. And we researched and brought local partners together, championed the local council people to be the champion of all this work. We talked to neighbors, we got tax credits, those applications in place so people would have benefit to believing in this work. In Norfolk is the Gosnold Apartments and the Church Street Station. There's in Portsmouth and Virginia Beach and Chesapeake. Basically, we emulated what the Virginia Supportive Housing did in Richmond and in Charlottesville, and now we're doing it here with a nationally award-winning model for regionalization, because a lot of places will do similar work, but it's just Norfolk or just, but this is, this regional effort, which is really exciting to be a part of that. The respite program that I talked to you about, that was in the early 2000s, or late 2000, that first decade, about 2008, 2009. We submitted a proposal. There was an RFP out. We submitted a proposal and said, I think we can do this work. And we were awarded that subcontract, and so that was about 14 years ago that we started that work. In 2010, in that decade, Norfolk, Chesapeake, and Western Tidewater merged to form their own COC collectively. So again, that regionalization, they got smart and said, we can do this better together.
Yeah, we're better together,
yeah. And created the Southeastern Virginia Homeless Coordination, and allowing TPC, the Planning Council, to be the lead agency for that, for all 6 localities. And Virginia Beach voted to transfer their HMIS program, their contract, to the Planning Council. So we take care of all of their data. They do their own COC, but we take care of all of their data. Takes that headache away from them. And then Portsmouth in 2019 voted to transfer the COC and the HMIS lead agency to the Planning Council, making us their lead. And then in 2020, although it's only 3 years, we received so much COVID funding to the tune of about $16 million, because a lot of that, because we're a vetted agency, HUD feels very comfortable, the state feels very comfortable in the work that we've done, and so we've kind of proven our worth, our value. So we received both federal and state funds to set up non-congregant shelters in Norfolk, Chesapeake, and Suffolk. So think about hotels.
Oh yeah, gotcha, okay.
And turning those into temporary shelters. The Hope Fund, Centerra's employee assistance program, multiplied 4 to 5 times what it used to be, because these families are so hurting. Centerra continued to fund it to that degree, to that level, because they needed the people to come to work. So, okay, yeah, you had a fire. I'm so sorry. We'll put you up in a hotel. Can you come to work? I mean, that sounds a little cold, but with COVID,
yeah,
the shortage was real. Yeah. Yep. So then there was some kind of one-off projects that we did in the last handful of years, dealing with the legalization of marijuana in the area. The state really wanted to see what kind of impact that would have on our communities, and so we did a study.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
wow.
Each of the municipalities was told to do this data, and they were like, me and what team? Like, we can't do this. So one of the municipalities was in partnership with us for other things and said, is this something y'all could do? And our team said, well, yeah. And then we got a second call and a third call, and then we said, wait a minute, if they're at, we need to let other people know. So, I don't know, 15, 16, maybe more than that, different municipalities needed that report done for the state, and so our team got together and they hustled.
Is there anything there? Like, is there any interesting data or stats that are coming out of that that you can share? That's fascinating.
I can share, yeah. What was fascinating is what the team learned from marketing perspective. One of the questions was, how is it marketed? If you're walking down the street and the head shop's there and there's signage is all colorful and graphic arts that are attractive to young children, and they're down at the 3-foot level, that's not okay. They need to raise it up to the 5-foot level and make it more adult graphic. You know, silly things that we don't think about like that are critical. And so it allows them to determine what rules they need to put in place. And my opinion is the cat's out of the bag. Like, the horses left the barn. Like, why are we doing this now instead of before it became legal? But they're doing it now, and that's good. Of course, the people who run these shops, some of them were very inviting, like, please come in, let me educate you about all of this, because they were looking at it as an entrepreneur and a new opportunity. And other people had the 1970s guise of a head shop, and like, what do you want? Why are you here? You know, kind of like very defensive. And
the dreadlocks or whatever.
Yeah, whatever, you know. And some people didn't want to participate. Nope, sorry, not interested, you need to leave. You know, you're not a customer.
Did they have a choice?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know if it was like a federal, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of interested in this just because, you know, this is a new, even for me, you know, for like legalization of marijuana, it's like, I don't know, it's just kind of hard to wrap your mind around when you think of the potential pros or the potential cons of that, just on how it impacts the city or the community. So the fact that there's actually a team of people out there that are doing the research on this to see what statistical data comes out of that, I'm genuinely curious about.
Yeah, when I was interviewing, this team was also simultaneously doing a study on problem gambling in the same kind of way, like trying to collect this data. So I was like, problem gambling and marijuana, like, what? What do we do here?
Well, there you go, Tab. We've covered marijuana and problem gambling on Tab Midweek. So there you go. There's always a first in church, right?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. One thing I'm really, really proud of, every year the Virginia Governor's Housing Conference takes place in November, and they give out about, they award, I shouldn't say give out because it's not like just willy-nilly passing them out. They have 6 different awards, different categories, and we had about 1,000 people in attendance at this year's event. They were gathered for a lunch in mid-November, and the Planning Council team that deals with COCs and the HMIS, they won the Best Regional Partnership Award, which is huge to win that award. When the nomination form came out the end of August, I looked at it, and again, this is all new work for me because I didn't have experience dealing with people experiencing homelessness, and so I laugh and say about needing a decoder ring for all of the acronyms, but truly, I didn't know what any of this stuff was, and so I'm trying to fast track learning everything. So when I see the nomination form come out, I read, you know, what some of them were for, and like, yeah, that's great, but that's not us. Yep, that's great, but that's not us. A lot of it is frontline worker concept. And then there was this best regional partner. I was like, well, that's us. That's who we are. That's who we are to the community. We have a very strong reputation in this industry for being kind of the best of the best. And so I took it to the senior director who's in charge of this whole end of this part of the business, and I said, so what do you think? And she's like, oh no, that's like if you were to open a new shelter, or like the senior services last year opened up a new senior housing. They took an old school and renovated it and turning it into senior housing. And I was like, I don't know if I agree with you, and I walked away from her. And so behind her back, I nominated us, and I let other people know that I was doing it, and if they felt compelled to go ahead and join me in the nomination. And a lot of them did, and we won, and I was just so excited. So I didn't tell Julie that I submitted the award or the nomination, and so she received a call from the director to announce, hey, congratulations. And she's like, for what? I don't understand. He says, Julie, in all of my years of doing this work, this congratulatory call has never been received in such a flat manner. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so he didn't know that it was a surprise to her, so it was just funny.
That's
anyway,
awesome.
They sent a videographer, and we interviewed a lot of our partners who said really kind things about us. And anyway, it was definitely a high at the end of the year. It was a lot of fun. And then end of the year work that we did that was not a lot of fun, but still rewarding. The Chesapeake Walmart mass shooting that occurred, we put together a victims fund so that on our website you can click on it, make a donation, and 100% of your donation will go to them. No money comes to us. It's a community need. We stepped up. And so basically it is our mission in action, and our mission is that we identify community needs. The mass shooting, there was a need there for people wanting to do something. We connect people with solutions, so we made this app on our website for them to click and drop money in, and to improve lives. And so the 10 people that were involved, there were 6 that were murdered and 4 that were injured. Those 10 people, families of, or those people, individuals, will receive 1/10 of what we collect. And so companies like Steel dropped $25,000, said, we don't know what to do, but we can do this, that kind of thing. And so it's been rewarding and sad all in the same sweep.
Well, it's just it's amazing to think of, and really just to see how the Planning Council y'all have adapted over the years, because the needs of our community in some ways have changed, but it's just a testament to the power of the organization that consistently, as you've seen, stepped up to those challenges and worked with the community, pulled resources together. And man, here you are now at the helm of this great story that's in the past, and I know that bright future ahead. So I guess we can end here, but I would just like to hear your thoughts on looking 5 years down the road, or I don't know, heck, a year down the road, 5 years down the road, however long you want to take it, Joanne. But it's really easy for us to look at the problems out there and just say, okay, look, oh, that's a problem, that's a problem, that's a problem, that's a problem. But with every problem, I truly believe this, every problem, the flip side of that, there's an opportunity there for us to do something about it. Is there something that either you're super passionate about, or something as you've been a part of Tidewater for the past year, as you've looked out and you've seen the landscape that's around us, that you're like, we're going after that, or boy, I wish we could be involved in making a difference there? Is there anything that resonates or comes to your mind?
Yeah, I must say that I've been really, really impressed with the talent that lives here. The people that come together for all of this work, things that are in our children's services and things that are in our area under planning, they're just so committed, and people love this area. I think that is the formula to take into what is my kind of pet peeve of the lack of regionalization. Take that wonderful talent, that dedicated group of people, and turn it into a movement to make our work from a regional perspective, so that it has more oomph, and has a stronger impact at the end of the day, instead of doing things by yourself.
I love that. Well, I mean this in all seriousness. We're going to do it right here in just a second, but praying for you and your team. And so we're about to transition into a time of prayer. So go ahead and start submitting those prayer requests online. If you've got something that you want us to pray for tonight, I'd be super honored to join with you and partner with you in prayer as we do that. I want us to just take a second and pray for Joanne, pray for her husband. What's your husband's first name? Do you mind? Jim. And family, just as y'all just continue to get settled here. I'm from Alabama, so I say y'all. I don't know if y'all say that in New Jersey, but anyway, I'm throwing a lot of y'alls up here, and Joanne's like, what? No, I'm just. And so we want to pray for them as they get settled here. And then I know you have a very busy day tomorrow, so you're going to go ahead and head that way. But thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
As we transition to prayer. So let me pray for you, Joanne. Father, we come before you, and Lord, I thank you for this opportunity just to really have an amazing perspective, a fresh perspective of just our community and this region and some things that you are doing, Lord. And I thank you for Joanne and her leadership. I thank you for her husband, Jim, Lord, and I just pray a blessing over them as they get settled in this new community. I pray that they would find just community for themselves, and also just enjoy this time that they have in Tidewater, Lord. And so thankful for them. We pray for the whole team of the Planning Council, Lord, and just pray for their unity as a team, that you would continue to bless them. And tomorrow, early in the morning, as they have this major task tomorrow, that you would be with them during that as well. And thank you for our city, Lord. Thank you for our community. Thank you for what you're doing, what you allow us to be a part of. And we give you the praise and the glory for it. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
All right, Joanne, thank you so much. And you guys don't, Joanne's going to leave. Y'all don't go anywhere. We're going to pray in just a second. But thank you so much, and we'll be in touch, all right?